On this channel, we love to run numbers for people. It's called $1 Million Made Easy, and we look at what the S&P 500 has done for the last 100 years and look ahead for what it might do in the future. I recently asked an AI, artificial intelligence, that's in Windows Copilot. I asked the question, I have $600,000 saved. Can I retire if I withdraw $2,000 a month with a 3% COLA and expect to live 30 years? And the answer was certainly, and they said, let's analyze it. Interesting, the withdrawal rule they used was the 4% rule. It's a common guideline. It suggests withdrawing 4% of your initial retirement savings in the first year and adjusting for inflation afterwards. So that'd be 24,000 or 2,000 a month. Need to adjust for inflation, which we picked 3%. But I want you to notice something. If your portfolio earns an average annual return of 6%, we can calculate the adjusted withdrawal. So they're using a 6% withdrawal rate. And down here it says market volatility in line 23 here. Keep in mind that market fluctuations can impact your returns. Yeah, because you're not going to get 6% every year. Consider diversifying your investments to manage risk. That's why we changed the asset allocation on our channel. And I've summarized by saying this. In summary, based on the assumptions above, you can retire with your current savings and withdrawing plan. However, it's essential to monitor your portfolio, adjust for inflation, and adapt as necessary. Why? Because you don't get 6% every year. But let me show you what we're talking about here. We're going to take this scenario that was just presented, $600,000 initially. We're going to do a 3% COLA. Initially, we're not going to do anything with the asset allocation. I just want to run some numbers here real quick. $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month. And we're going to set the rate to 6%. So this is what you would have given that scenario. After 30 years, you have 793,000. That's withdrawing 2,000 a month, increasing that by 3% a year. You can see the numbers going down through here. I'm going to update this. It's going to show the same numbers all the way through. For the 10 years, it's going to show the 716. For the 20 years, it's going to show the 803, and the 30 years, it's going to 793. So yeah, your money would last if you got 6% inflation. But remember what it said right here. Keep in mind that market fluctuations can impact your returns. You're not going to get 6% every year. We could have picked 8% or whatever. I just asked AI, and that's what they came up with. So what I want to do is update this using stock market returns. So we're going to go ahead and go back to stock market returns right down through here. I'm going to adjust it. Look at what it's done for every single year for the last 100 years. You can see that 2 times in the last 100 years, 1929, 1930, you run out of money, and 3 times, 28, 29, and 30, you'd run out of money. But look at the difference. What did the set rate do? You had 793,000 after that. But look at what, I'll just leave it right here to show you the comparison. 6%, yeah, you got 793,000. How many times in the last 100 years would you have had much more than that after 30 years? 95.8% of the time you'd have over $1 million. 94% of the time you'd have over $2 million. 91% of the time you'd have over $3 million. The only problem years were 1929 and 1930, and actually 1928 for the 30-year run. So they're running it at 6%, saying, yeah, you'd not run out of money, which is true, and that's what it's saying with right here. But look at how much more you'd have if you use actual returns rather than just a projected 6%. Let's change this to 7%. And go ahead and set the rate to 7%. Then you have 1.456. Over here, 94% of the time you have over 2 million. How about setting this interest rate to 8%? We can just play with these numbers all day long, but I thought it was interesting that they picked the 4% rule, and they said, make sure you monitor what the actual returns are. So I'm going to go ahead and set the rate to 8%. Then you have 2.372 after 30 years. Here, 90% of the time you'd have over 2 million, 91% of the time over 3 million. In other words, you can't just use average returns, but look what the S&P 500 has done over and over and over again over the years. 91% of the time over 3 million. Using an 8% return here, it's just 2.372. And again, we use all kinds of numbers. Again, if we change the asset allocation, let's see how that I'm going to go back to the 6% because that's what they ran it at. Set the rate there when we're back to 793,000. What if you do a 60-40 split? 60% staying in the S&P 500 and 40% going over there. Let's go ahead and reset. Look at the actual numbers. Update. And 0% of the time in 20 years. Why? Because when the market was going down here, it's coming out of the cash reserve, not out of the S&P 500. So when the S&P does come back, look what happens. Only the 2 years, 1929 and 30, would you actually run out of money, given this scenario. Again, they ran it at 6%. I want to run the numbers. I just want to see how AI answered that. It was interesting the numbers they used. They used the 4% rule right here, and they also use an average annual return of 6%. In actuality, use at the S&P 500, 97.2% of the time, you'd come out much better than using that set rate of 6%. Again, we run numbers for people. I just thought this was interesting to see how AI answered it. Please consider subscribing. I will put out numbers like this and information like this often. Please subscribe. Please share this with friends, and thanks for watching.